I get a lot of praises from my thumbnails, which I appreciate. Some of you even said that I inspired you to try making content on YouTube, and that you want to learn how to create thumbnails, which I really like. I love when people are interested in learning, and not just finding shortcuts. So today, what you can expect from this video is to learn my process, from conceptualizing to executing my ideas. What you're not gonna get is a step-by-step tutorial on how to use the programs I use. Speaking of programs, everything I use is completely free. Chrome, Roblox Studio, Krita, and Blender. The only thing that's not free is my drawing tablet. I'm using a Huion Canvas 13, which sells for around $237. Feel free to convert that to your own currency. I got mine for $170 because it was on sale. So if you're planning to get one, Christmas is coming, there's definitely going to be a sale. But if you're not, or you can't, I'll tell you a workaround later if you have a phone. So first of all, before we get started, the first part of this process is conceptualizing or forming an idea. For me, coming up with an idea is the hardest part. So let's break it down. Let's say we're going to make a Yorichi thumbnail. So where do we start? Well, first step is to get some references. Get a reference of Yorichi himself, and since he's a samurai, get some references of samurais too. And please do your research about the character if you don't know them very well. For example, these, and these are sword poses, but I don't really see him doing them. They don't suit his character or personality. Now that you have an idea of what pose you want, let's talk about composition. You can't just slap your subject onto the canvas and call it a day. Here are some compositional guides that artists use. Now, I know there's a lot of them, but don't be intimidated. Personally, I've been doing art for years and I don't even remember or use all of them. I mainly use the rule of thirds, something called leading lines, and sometimes just putting my subject in the middle. Some people call it the golden section, which is different from the golden ratio, but I just call it putting the subject in the middle. This is the rule of thirds. Science says your eyes naturally look at these sections first, so it's best to put your subjects here. You've probably seen this grid on your phone camera. So next time you take a picture, make sure your subject is in these sections. Here's a chart showing where people's eyes land most and least. So artists tend to put the eyes or important parts of a subject in those areas. But personally, I don't go that deep into it. Another one is leading lines. Basically invisible lines that guide your eyes on where to look. You don't see them, but they exist. They're most common with perspective. Sometimes, especially in YouTube thumbnails, creators use actual arrows to tell you where to look. Sometimes there's really nothing there, but it piques your curiosity so you'll click. Leading lines don't have to be straight. If we look at this example, our attention goes here, not just because it's in the middle, but because invisible leading lines are pointing to it. So even without centralizing it, your eyes are still being directed there. Now before we move on, let's look at some examples of composition with my own thumbnails. You don't really have to use a rule of thirds grid before working. You can if you want, but personally, I don't. For example, here's my alien class review thumbnail. As you can see, the subject is within that area. It's not perfect because I didn't use a grid, but that's the point. You don't have to. Same with the assassin class thumbnail. It's almost on the grid, but not perfect. Cyborg, on the other hand, lands perfectly on the grid lines. His visor is almost perfectly split in half by the line. You can also combine elements. For example, the alien class thumbnail uses the rule of thirds and has invisible leading lines pointing to the subject. There are literal arrows pointing to the subject. It's a good example of how you can integrate leading lines naturally to your art. Same goes for the assassin. Next up is color theory, deciding what colors to use. If you look up color theory, you might get overwhelmed because it can go really deep into psychology and all that stuff. But just like composition, I don't memorize all of it. These are the three I mainly use: analogous, monochromatic, and the most common one, complementary. Complementary colors are colors that are on opposite ends of the color wheel. You see that everywhere, even the flag of Sweden uses complementary colors. Monochromatic is one color with different shades. Analogous is using colors next to each other on the color wheel. You'll see that a lot in sunsets. Here are some examples again. With Cyborg, blue and pink are the two major colors. And as you can see, they're from opposite sides of the color wheel. Same with the alien class, including the text. The witch class has a more monochromatic vibe, lots of shades of green. But there are small hints of pink and purple, which are on the opposite side of the color wheel. So now, you picked colors that complement each other, and you're ready to make your art. But why are you so ugly? I mean, why does this look ugly? Well, it has something to do with contrast. If we turn on the black and white filter, there's almost no contrast between the two colors. It's even hard to tell this is a black and white image. You can barely see the text. Now if we compare it to this, that looks much better. When we turn on the black and white filter, you can see how much it pops out. The witch class thumbnail is a perfect example. The white outline that I put around her makes her pop out the background more. So using outlines is a great hack to separate your subject to the background. You can also implement it inside your characters by the form of highlights. If you think elements of your characters are blending, separate them using highlights or even black outlines like line art. But be careful with contrast, it can be deceiving. For example, this blue on the chair looks brighter than the surrounding color, but it's actually not. Even if you pick a bright yellow and a bright blue from the same corner of the color wheel, that doesn't mean they have the same value. In fact, they can be very far apart in contrast. We're not going to go deeper into this, but just be careful. If you watch digital artists paint and they keep turning the picture black and white, it's so they can see the contrast better. You can do that by placing a white layer on top of your drawings and setting the blend mode to color. Now that you know what pose you want, how to frame your subject, and what colors to use, we can finally start doing stuff. You can start by sketching your idea, but I don't really sketch. So open Chrome, go to Roblox, and open the marketplace. At the same time, open Roblox Studio, click Scripts, and click Command. Then copy and paste the command at the pinned comments. Get a block avatar in the character menu. If it's not on your home tab, it's in the avatar section. Now on Chrome, look up the assets you want to use. Open the one you want and copy the ID. Paste it in this section of the script and hit enter. If you can't find where it loaded, press F. It's inside the model, so click the arrow and drag it inside your own character model. Delete the empty model or it will pile up very quickly. Do that for every item you want to add. Be careful with layered clothing because they don't transform properly in Blender. Let me show you what I mean. When you're done dressing your character, go to Avatar, Animation, and start posing. If it's hard to click your body parts, take off the outfit temporarily. After you have your pose, select all the body parts. You don't need to select non-body parts. On the Home tab, click Anchor. Now close the animation panel. If you don't anchor it, the pose won't stick. Drag your clothing back, and we're ready to export. Right-click your model and export it as OBJ. Now in Blender, go to File, Import, and OBJ. Find and select the OBJ file. As you can see with this model, the layered clothing didn't transform. You can fix this, but you'll need to learn Blender first. You need to rig the character yourself. So for now, stick to classic shirt and pants. Now all you have to do is position the camera and remember the composition stuff we talked about. When lighting your character or scene, remember color theory. You're not just picking complementary colors, you're also setting the mood of the character. After your composition and lighting are done, render your image. I suggest rendering it as a PNG so we can play with the background later. After that, import it into Krita and start painting over it. If you don't have a drawing tablet and don't want to use a mouse, send the file to your phone via Google Drive or whatever you prefer. Then open it in Autodesk or Ibis Paint, you'll get a similar result. From here, it's all up to you. Add whatever visual effects you want. While I'm painting over this, let me quickly address something. Earlier, I said that I'm not going through step by step of the programs. That's why I moved fast through Blender and Roblox Studio. That's because learning Roblox Studio and Blender is a whole video on its own. For Studio, you only need to learn navigation. Unless you want to make your own game, you don't need scripting or the other tools. For Blender, it takes months or years to master depending on what level you want to achieve. You can literally do a whole Pixar movie on Blender. But if you only want to do what I do, just learn the basics. You can learn Studio basics in a day, and Blender basics in about a week or two. For Roblox Studio, I recommend this series of Row Builder. Blender Guru's How to Make a Donut is a staple for all 3D artists. He doesn't just teach you how to make a donut, he teaches the fundamentals and gives you a strong foundation. His videos are even shown in art schools. That's how you know they're good. If you're serious about art, start researching and learning the theories I talked about even deeper. And start learning programs like Blender. Now let's talk about a workaround for phones if you don't have a PC or a laptop. Go to Catalog Avatar Creator and dress your character however you like. Under Effects, use the Pose Editor to pose your character. After you get the pose you like, go to Settings, Environment, and choose a background with a plain solid color. Under More Options, use the free cam to get the angle that you want. The downside is, you can't control the lighting. In Photo Studio, you have more lighting control, but camera angles are limited. When you're happy, take a screenshot and import it to your drawing app. Just select the background and delete it. That's why the solid background is important. When I paint over my work, I not only add effects, but also fix things. Always remember, in art, less is more. For example, on my Necromancer thumbnail, I only had under an hour to make it, so I didn't think too much about composition and color. In the end, I wasn't happy. There was too much going on this picture. So when I had free time, I reworked it. I simplified the whole picture and some elements. For example, the mask had too much detail. I painted over it and simplified it. Now it looks so much better. If you learned something from this video, you've probably noticed the invisible leading lines and the use of complementary colors. I like this new version so much better. And just like that, you finally have a thumbnail. Now you might be thinking, wow, that's a lot of work, and I'm not even gonna get views. Meanwhile, other creators can just post any slop and get more views. Well, if you're just in it for the views, you'll burn out quickly and won't last long on YouTube. Personally, I don't mind putting in the effort because it reflects the standards of me as a creator and of this channel. I want people to see me as someone who puts everything into what I do, whether it's thumbnails, doing research for my topics, or the quality of the content itself. If I only cared about numbers, I could throw in some slop thumbnails, post more frequently, and infest all of your feeds with more slop than YouTube already has. That would definitely grow my channel faster without a doubt, because that's what's popular on the current YouTube landscape. But I don't want to play that game. I'm passionate about content creation, and if it's all just numbers, it becomes soulless. But art should be full of soul and passion. Anyway, if you made it this far, thank you, and I hope you learned something. This is the piece I'll be submitting for the drawing contest. So if you want to support me, head to the Discord and react to my post. But if you can't, you've already supported me just by watching this far. So thank you everyone. Bye bye!